The United Nations says 30,000 people have fled the besieged city of Aleppo in the past few days, taking the total number of displaced people to 400,000.
Well, the Russian and Syrian governments have declined a request for a pause in the fighting, but will discuss the use of 4 humanitarian corridors.
Our diplomatic editor Dominic Waghorn is here, as he has been in recent days, following the fate of this city, which doesn't look great.
No, the UN has activated its humanitarian arm now, with some force having failed again yesterday to reach any diplomatic, make any diplomatic progress, largely because of Russia's insistence on vetoing any diplomatic progress in New York. But in Geneva, we've had 2 officials talking about the plight, the humanitarian disaster that is unfolding in both in eastern Aleppo and also the part of Aleppo where these civilians have fled to. So we've heard from Jan Egeland, who's the head of the humanitarian task force on Syria, and his boss, Stefan de Mistura, the United Nations envoy on Syria.
Those we are not reaching are the people still in besieged eastern Aleppo. We had hoped to get the message that the Russian Federation and the government of Syria will allow a pause in the fighting for us to access East Aleppo and evacuate people out. We didn't get it. However, the Russian Federation announced that there are 4 humanitarian corridors that they want to sit down now in Aleppo with our people there to discuss how we can use the 4 corridors.
The most urgent thing that we are going to ask for at the moment is actually shelter. Winter and places for people to be. Winter is coming across. Now, I renew in this connection our request to al-Nusra to leave eastern Aleppo on a safe passage. This will contribute avoiding bloodshed and increase our leverage on insisting on an urgent pause.
People are left with an impression, Dominic, of the various august institutions, whether it's the UN, EU, charities, NGOs, wringing their hands, gnashing of teeth, but actually what can they possibly do beyond express their outrage and horror?
Yeah, we've heard the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon say this is a slaughterhouse. We've heard people say yesterday that it could be a worse massacre than anything seen in the Second World War. It's been compared to Guernica, the massacre of Spanish civilians in the city of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War by the German Luftwaffe. Any number of condemnations, but no progress towards any kind of solution for the people of Aleppo who face a desperate situation. What these civilians are facing now is they've woken up in a city that's been besieged for 4 years and under heavy bombardment now as the Syrians, with Iranian backing, Hezbollah backing and Russia air power as well, bombarding their city. And some have chosen to stay, some have chosen to flee. Some of those have been hit by artillery strikes on the way out. It's been a terrifying gauntlet they've had to run into the hands of government forces where they've not known what kind of reception they're getting. So the desperate situation they're in is being handled now by the United Nations and other aid agencies, trying to deal with the tens of thousands who've escaped in winter conditions now. Huge amount of food and shelter and blankets and medicine needs to be found for them. And then obviously deep concern for those tens of thousands, up to 250,000 civilians still trapped in eastern Aleppo, with 100,000 children. As you say, well, the world wrings its hands, but at the moment the Syrians and the Russians and the Iranians being allowed to get away with it so far, trying to take control of this part of Aleppo, effectively flattening it, with the aim, I think, of presenting to the world a fait accompli by next year when we'll have a new president in America.
Okay. Dominic, thanks a lot.